Ooh, the element of style I'm most satisfied with, it's got to be how I push shapes. It's the thing that I've enjoyed doing the most recently, trying to make sure that there's as much motion, rhythm, basically any place that I can pull something to make it just feel a bit more interesting, a bit more exaggerated. I really enjoy doing that. And I think I've got to a point where, if anything, I need to start doing it slightly less and go back to some realism so that I balance the two and get, you know, this fluid motion, but also stuff that people understand intuitively. A very good segue, because the thing I think I need to get to most is realism. There's so many facets to realism. I think the one that I really want to hone in on is the exact colors that I use in paintings. I think you can push the shape of objects, you can really stylize things, and as long as you still use very, very accurate colors, it feels like it's real. When you look at it, you can immediately get a sense of where the light sources are that are creating a scene. And I want to hone that in, because at the moment I feel like I rely a little too much on Photoshop techniques, filters, overlays, things like that. And I want to be able to pick exact colors using knowledge, basically. Exactly, I want to be a bit more like the old school painters like Sargent. That's always the example people bring up, but Soroya as well. AI is very interesting because it is incredible for what it's possible. I find it amazing just trying to think about how it's learned all of this and then is able to piece things back together. It's fun to try and wrap your head around. It's a sci-fi concept that we really just didn't expect to come this quickly. So it's quite inspirational in a way. It makes me wonder, you know, what other things, technologies are just around the corner that we haven't got to yet. And I think it raises the bar in a sense. It's scary to artists, but because of that, now I have to think about what can I do as a human that's going to sort of, you know, keep me valuable, keep me ahead of the AI. And that's a really interesting challenge. I like challenges, I like competitions. This is maybe the biggest challenge that's ever sort of faced artists. But it's like something that you have to try and beat. On the negative side, there's a strange feeling when I see artwork. It's uncomfortable. I see essentially a lot of time and effort that I've put into trying to make artwork, and now it's just doing it in seconds. So I love rendering, I love going into the details of color, materials and all of that, and it feels like I have to put hours and hours into it, and it's just doing it in seconds. And people respond to it, and I look at it and go, I have to admit that this is genuinely good, but a human didn't make it. And that leaves me with a strange, sort of almost upsetting feeling that I don't know what to do with yet. Book. Recently, I've been listening to China Miéville's The Scar. It's a book. I've been listening to it as an audiobook, and the imagery that he creates is just incredible. If an artist is ever feeling stuck for something to draw, listen to this book or read the book and you'll have infinite ideas. You'll never be able to, you'll never run out of them. So I really love it, and it's a fantastic story too. For a movie, The Night is Short, Walk On Girl. It's an animated one from Masaki Yuasa, and it's absolutely beautiful, and it's a very human story. For video game, what would I choose? At the moment, I've been really enjoying Deep Rock Galactic. You go into space, there's a bunch of dwarves, and you mine and fight bugs at the same time. It's a very fun game mechanically, but I think it's a really good idea, or a really good example of where pulling back on realism works really well for the style. So that's fantastic, really great art direction. So I mentioned them before, but having a look at some of the old masters is a really, really good start. It sort of pushes you away from some of the trappings that digital has. So John Singer Sargent would be the obvious one. You really can't go wrong with any of his work. It's fantastic. Going into digital, I really, really love Axel Salvold. He seems to do this lovely sort of space between this sort of old realism that the old masters had, and also really interesting shape language, stuff that sort of ties the modern digital style back to the Renaissance. Third one, Tan Zhihui. He also goes by Kudaman on ArtStation, and he's probably one of the biggest influences on me for just how far you can push shapes. overcoming art block, I think, is where you just need to be inspired by something else. So going back to the book I mentioned earlier, listen or read to something that's really inspirational with its descriptions of its characters, environments, everything, and you'll immediately want to start drawing it. Oh, okay. Something I see happen so much on Instagram. Someone posts their work and the comments say, oh, this looks like something else. This looks like that artist. And I don't know, you read it and you go, I thought I was being original, but apparently not. I think the biggest thing is to not rush into your work. Pre-planning is something that I still don't do enough. And every time I do it, I benefit so much from it. So that's writing down any ideas you have at any time. Keep them recorded because you'll want to go back to them. And then once you have that idea you want to turn into an illustration or a project, really go far into sketches that are so loose that no one's going to see them. Like, make sure you get all of your ideas out and on paper before you start trying to do the final illustration, because otherwise you'll just find yourself stuck.